And welcome back, everybody. My guest today is Katy Temple. Katy, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Happy Monday. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it. I love what you're doing. You are helping people be great on camera. And really, now that we're in this age where we're having these Zoom calls all the time, you're helping people kind of nail that delivery or that image that we want to have. And I want to talk a lot about your new business. But first, I want to talk a little bit about your journey and how you got to this point, because you're a pro, you're a professional sports anchor and have been doing that for a long time now. How did you initially get into the business?
To the sports business.
Yeah.
TV. When I was a kid, I was a tomboy. That's all that there is to it. My mom said that she gave me a doll for a birthday one year, and I just tossed it right over the fence. And so that was not conscious. So I played sports my whole life. I grew up with a gaggle of male cousins and brothers and neighbors, and it was just always a passion of mine. And what happened is when I was younger, there wasn't a WNBA, there wasn't a women's soccer league professional, there were only Olympics. And so when I was a kid, I had a dream of being an Olympic volleyball player, but that's all it was. And in high school, I got the opportunity, luckily, to do kind of a local TV show. I grew up in Merced, California, which is a small city in the Central Valley. And we had a TV show called MAP TV, and there were two adults covering the area, and then I got to do sports, and it was such a great opportunity for me. And I thought, well, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. I can't play, so maybe I can just get paid to talk about sports for a living. And that's really when it took off. And then I thought my senior year in high school, it occurred to me, okay, this is what I want to do. And that's really the impetus of it.
So you probably started in a smaller market initially?
I went to Atlanta. I kind of took a route that, well, everybody's route's different, but they always tell you for TV, at least back then, you want to go cut your teeth in a small market, which I know that you understand. And you hear these things and you try to figure it out, but my path was different. I was living in Atlanta and I cut my teeth behind the scenes. I was working for Sports South, which was under the Turner umbrella. And so I was a production coordinator for the executive producer, and I was booking talent, travel for talent, and I was doing administrative things. But in the side, I asked my executive producer, I said, can I do hits, live hits, sideline reporting, anything just to get my feet wet? And I don't even care what sport it is, just the stuff that nobody else wants to do, because Sports South had the right to a lot of games, and ACC and SEC and the Atlanta Braves. And so he let me. And so I started doing sidelines for SEC volleyball, or I did some, I spoke very good Spanish at the time. So I did some Spanish soccer stuff on the side that we had the rights to. And that was on the side just because I knew I needed to get a reel together. And once I got that reel together, I started sending it out everywhere, small markets, Bangor, Maine, in Portland, and I never got any hits. And my first hit was with Media One, which was a cable company in Fresno, California, and I took it. And the great part about that is, ironically or coincidentally, I grew up in Merced, which was an hour north of Fresno. My mom grew up in Fresno. I knew Fresno. A lot of my friends went to Fresno State, so it wasn't such a big deal. And, Fresno's actually not too small of a market. It was great. It's a 60, I think. So I got very lucky in that I was really going back home.
Yeah, that is lucky. And tell me about then your first experience on the air. I mean, were you naturally good right away, or did it take a little bit of time?
Good. Is anybody naturally good? I mean, I know you understand this business. I was working so it was Media One, a cable company. So it wasn't broadcast, but they had the rights to all Fresno State sports. And then eventually the Giants AAA team at the time came to Fresno, so we got to cover them as well. I was editing, I was producing, I was doing play-by-play for Fresno State sports, some football. I hosted a half-hour Central Valley sports show. I was also editing, though, as well, and tape to tape.
Yeah, right.
And then the really great part about it was that we had the right to coach a show for Fresno State sports. So I started off with coach a show with Jim Sweeney and then Pat Hill, the football coach. And I also did a show with Jerry Tarkanian at the time. So can you imagine?
Wow.
I'm a broadcaster, and Tark was coaching Fresno State basketball at the time. So I produced and edited and co-hosted this live studio audience coaches show with Pat Hill and Jerry Tarkanian. And that was a really great experience because I knew what an icon he was. But in the meantime, I also loved covering all the women's stuff because that was a whole different opportunity for me. And so I made a lot of mistakes. As you know, I made a ton of mistakes. And I was there for about 2 years, but it was a terrific opportunity.
Yeah, I was in your business for a little while, and not everybody probably even realizes that. But people don't realize also how much you do. I mean, you're doing the on-air work, the behind-the-scenes writing. A lot of times you're doing the editing of the tape, as we had, back in the old days. So it's a lot of work. And I was not. I mean, this podcast is not about me, but real quick, since we're talking about it, I was horrible at first. I mean, I literally went into my first day on the job, and they put me on the news anchor, and I was doing a morning show, and I'd never done it before. So the prompter's rolling up, and I can't even read off the prompter. It's like going too fast. I've never done it before. It was so bad. I can't believe I ended up doing it for like 6-7 years, and it worked out. I learned how to do it, but I can't believe they had me come back the second day. It was so bad.
That makes me sweat just thinking about having
me too.
news and sit and watch and deal with the teleprompter and the speed and not knowing how you sound and how you look and where to sit and where to look. And I'm proud of you, though. You did it. That's what they say, trial by fire. That'll do it.
Well, it's proof that you can learn anything if you really put your mind to it and go for it, right?
Agreed. Did you like it when you were in it? And what did you like about it?
I did. I really liked here was my thing. I loved the show. I was like a morning show anchor, and then an evening at Fox in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I love the hour or 30-minute show. So that part was great. It was the 9 hours leading up to that show that wasn't so great. All the writing and the news stories. I was more of a TV guy rather than a journalist.
You were a personality, and you had.
I guess so. Yeah.
I get it.
So now from there, then you end up you come to San Diego, and you're in a big market, and you're at sports at KFMB. So things are really taking off at that point.
Well, actually, in 1999, I moved to San Diego because Fox had launched XETV here in 1999, and I was the weekend sports anchor. And so I got really lucky. I left Fresno and went to San Francisco for a brief minute, and then came down. I got a job. The news director called me and said, "Listen, we got your tape. Yeah. You're very green, but I think you have a lot of potential. We're going to pay you this amount of money, and if it works out for all of us, great. And if it doesn't, we'll give you a year. And if it doesn't work out after a year, then at least you have a good resume reel to move on." And so from 99 to 05, I was a weekend sports anchor at Fox 6, XETV in San Diego. And we also did a half-hour Sunday night sports show called That Sunday Sports Show, named after, obviously, the show. And I loved that, kind of going back to what you said. I loved having a co-anchor. I loved feeding off a co-anchor. And I loved having a half-hour show just to talk about sports versus 3 or 4 minutes each night to kind of get the highlights in. I loved that. Yeah.
And so for me, when I was doing that, it was all on-air experience. So there was very little coaching or anything like that. We maybe have one person come in one time and help us out a little bit. Mm-hmm. For you, did you ever get any formal, coaching, let's say, or is it all just you learn it?
I didn't get any formal coaching, but I did have colleagues that helped me with tips, which was really helpful. Because when I was at San Diego, when I landed in San Diego, I was the only one that didn't have any anchoring experience. And what people need to know, and what I tell my clients that are now using teleprompters for their videos, is that anchoring with a teleprompter is an entirely different skill set, because you're trying to figure out the speed of what you're saying. And at that point, I wasn't even controlling the teleprompter. We had somebody else doing it. So there's the speed of the teleprompter, and you have to keep up with it and be present with what you're saying and sound conversational. So I tell people, you need to give yourself some grace. We're asking you to have a conversation while you're reading, but don't look like you're reading. And so that was a really, really big learning curve for me. But what I did was I had a couple of colleagues that were on my side that are still friends of mine that helped me. And then I stayed late. We launched in 99, but we had practice rounds for a few months before we went on the air live, which was terrific. And so we would do our sports show, and then I would ask the crew to stay a little later so I could go over it a couple more times.
And are you still anchoring now?
I fill in at Channel 8 in San Diego, KFMB. I fill in sports, which is still so fun. And I've been doing that since 2011. I moved back, left San Diego, came back, and then I've been filling in since about 2011, 2012.
Okay, great. Well, so now you go into the media coaching. Mm-hmm. I guess is that the right term for it?
Executive media coaching. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And you've been doing that about 4 years now. Mm-hmm. So it actually started well before the whole COVID scenario. It must have really gone through a big transition at that point.
It did. And thank you for asking that question, because what's interesting is that what I have found in the last year is that people that were maybe never going to need my coaching before because they're extroverts and they're in sales and they're confident and they understand human connection and feedback and engagement, and that's where they thrive. Now you have to do everything in some random room that you had to make work in front of your computer, maybe on your phone. And a lot of those people just did not handle that very well, whether it was that they were confident, but they didn't like the way they looked and the camera was picking them up funny, which is more tactical, as you know. And then the other part of that is, man, when that camera goes on, I just lose it. I feel insecure. I'm not confident. I'm scared. I feel fearful. I'm sweating. I'm worried about judgment. And so that's really what I saw happen, is that I have a new clientele that maybe didn't need it before. And what occurred to me very early on is I had a client at the beginning of COVID who was supposed to create videos. We were going to create videos, and they had to go virtual, and they asked me for some feedback, and it was really rough. And I thought to myself, okay, I get it. These people are normally very confident. They're successful and well-spoken and have had a lot of success. However, now they're dealing with the anxiety and the unknown of this global pandemic. Nobody knew it was going to happen. They're having to create things in these rooms that they never thought they'd have to do. And it's not fair. And it's a lot to ask of people, especially when there's a lot of people that don't ever want to be on camera ever, and now they're being forced to do that. And so immediately I thought, okay, this isn't fair. You can't blame them, and you can really help. You can really, really help.
So I help companies with their office space or their corporate headquarters, help them find new buildings. We design new office layouts, things like that. One of the things that I'm finding now is we're starting to even, we're not coming out of COVID, let's say, but it's easing up a little bit, is even now we're looking for new buildings, and they want to create a video conference area. So we're dedicating whole buildings, whole office segments to doing this. And so it seems like it's really going to continue, not just at home, but here in the office too.
I love that. And you know what? You and I need to work together then. That's a terrific collaboration. And just make sure that they have green screens. Make sure they have green screens if they want to use their virtual backgrounds. That's all I ask.
We definitely have to talk about that, because I know what a green screen is, but I don't know how to use it, in doing this kind of stuff. So for sure, we need to collaborate on that. Agreed. What are some of the things also that you're seeing with your clients? You mentioned them being a little bit nervous on the screen or just kind of losing their train of thought. Is there any one or two things that you see a lot of?
It really varies, because I've got such a variety of clients. I have sales teams that I do workshops with. I have executives. I have professional athletes. I have founders. I'm doing some executive coaching, and I'm helping people create videos. So now it just really depends. Filler words are a big one. Filler words are a big one. Losing their train of thought, which you just mentioned, are a big one. And I've got a handful of people that are just, like I mentioned before, really confident. But when that camera goes on, it just sends them to a different space. And as you know, confidence comes in a variety of ways. And so that's what I work with my clients on, to find that. So I like to merge with what their natural skill set is to make them soar and thrive.
You mentioned the filler words, and I'm horrible with those. And when I'm on, I don't feel like I say them that much, and things are fine. But when I look back at it, I think, oh, I barely can watch myself. It's so horrible, because I notice all those little uhs and ums and, so I'm sure you have a whole probably process dedicated to just that.
I have a video actually that I posted on LinkedIn about how to minimize filler words, because it's so pertinent. And from your perspective, you're probably good when you're doing your podcast because you go into anchor mode from your experience in Charlotte, which makes sense. Yeah. But then what happens off camera for you probably is that you're comfortable as an extemporaneous communicator, but extemporaneous communicators, as good as they are, also just use those crutch words here and there. And sometimes people aren't sure what to say. The other thing about COVID is that because of all the danger and the fear and the anxiety, is a lot of people just aren't as focused as they used to be before when they're communicating. And when you're not focused or you haven't prepared, then it's easy just to use a filler word.
Do you think, are we headed to, everybody that I talk to in the business world, it said this is going to continue. There's going to be more video conferences. There's going to be more Zooms, more videos, as you mentioned, more of like a video case study rather than written words. That's not going to change, but they'll be both. Are you hearing the same?
I would ask you, I'd love to have an actual separate conversation with you about commercial real estate for that reason. What I have noticed a lot of is that, there's the general, okay, now we're on Zoom and Teams or whatever you're using, and I need to up my game. So there's that. And then there's various little reasons that they need to up their game. But a lot of people that are maybe conservative or traditional businesses are realizing, or people that want to be thought leaders are realizing, I need to create videos. Writing is great, but sometimes people don't have the time to write. So I need to create these 2-minute videos with special ideas or feedbacks or thoughts, or again, people that want to be thought leaders. And that's what I'm seeing a lot of. Okay, now I need to create videos. How the heck do I do that? I don't even know where to start.
Right. And let's talk about background a little bit. Just a couple of takeaways for people who are watching or listening. And yours looks great. Mine looks very boring, let's say.
You're well lit. You're well lit and you're clear and you sound good.
So that's good. So 2 out of the 3.
You got that going for you.
Do you help? This may be a little thing. I don't know. You tell me. Do you help people with that side of it too? Is, hey, you need to put up a picture or do something to fix the way it looks in the background? Because it is noticeable, right? I can notice yours is kind of warm and feels good, or mine is a little bit harsh.
100%. Not that yours is harsh, but that's the foundation that I help my clients with if they need it. Some people have already got it figured out. But a lot of times I work with them on their background. That's the foundation of when we get into an engagement, because the foundation part of my engagement is the fundamentals of storytelling, messaging, and then delivery and presence, all foundational. We're talking about, we start small. And the first thing is, let's audit your home studio. Let's audit it and go through that. Last week, I was on my Zoom with a gentleman that runs an investment firm, and he was going to be doing a big presentation, and his background really just didn't matter until then for whatever reason. I literally recorded him live. We were doing Zoom live and literally went through and said, okay, let's move the lighting here. I don't like that picture here. Put that picture here. How does that feel? I want you to look this way and not here. And we tinkered it down to the detail. And that's the only way that you're going to make it work and get better. Because people are busy. They've got kids, they've got pets, they've got parents, they've got careers. They're trying to keep everything together during a pandemic and this. So I can help them. I can just take that right out of the equation and say, okay, what room are you going to use? Let's start with that. Now let's go for it. Now let's work on it. Find your natural light first. The first thing you want to do is find your natural light, and then we'll figure the rest of it out. How's that poster here? How's this here? Let me tell you what I think of when I see this. Is that the vibe that you want to come across? Do you want your guitars back there because you like the idea that people know you as a musician? Okay, let's talk through that. So I literally will record and audit live their home studios. It's fun. It's really fun.
I love it. Who is your target market, let's say? I mean, I could see executives, salespeople, of course, CEOs who are probably doing this stuff all the time. Mm-hmm. Who would be a good fit for this for you?
That's a great question. And people have been asking me since the beginning that I started the business, we really think you should niche down. We really think you should niche down what industry. And I just didn't do that, for better or for worse. And it's been 4 years, so I'm still finding my way as an entrepreneur. But my niche is really, if there's a camera around, I can make you better. And so I do work with sales teams a lot of workshops with sales teams and leadership teams, which turn out to be terrific, and team building. And then executives or founders, a lot of pitch decks, a lot of executive coaching just on, okay, let's get your elevator pitch down. Let's get this presentation down first, because people will come to me and say, I've got my presentation, but I just need work on my delivery. Well, no, let's start over. Let's start over with your presentation. Practice that. Tell me about that phrase. Tell me about those words. Is that what you really wanted to say? Is there any story in there? We got to add story. And so it's really just niched around people that need help on camera. And then I do still have some professional athletes in transition, and that just comes from my background and my passion for sports. And usually the professional athletes that I deal with are looking to either go on the speaking circuit, be a spokesperson, or be a broadcaster. And then that becomes really, really specific to what opportunity they have.
So these are guys or women that are looking to make the transition from sports to be a broadcaster.
Right. Because when I first started, I thought I would do sports teams and athletes, of course, just because that's my natural background. And I had worked for a media coach when I was younger. And I thought, well, that's going to be the path. But then when I found out that, I could still kind of maybe try to figure that out. But what I like is that I learned that executives and leaders are really hungry to be great. And that's what I loved about it. If you have an athlete that's playing, that's hitting the ball well, hitting bombs, scoring touchdowns, or she's scoring goals all the time, and she may not be a great communicator, unless she really thinks it matters, it's not going to matter, and they're not going to want help, because it doesn't matter. If you're hitting bombs or scoring goals, I don't know that anyone really cares if you're not a good communicator, or the ones that do they matter? That's been my experience. However, these athletes that are transitioning are smart enough and competitive enough to know that they need help. And they're okay with really focusing on the smallest adjustments and the tweaking, because they want to be great. I had, professional baseball player. Of course, you have to keep hitting and hitting and hitting, and look at video and tweak and tweak and tweak. And they know what they don't know. And that's what I love about those particular athletes. And that's what I love about executives.
Yeah, because you really have to put in the work, right? It's not just going to happen for you overnight. You really have to, like you said, look at the video and practice.
Changing behavior. You're changing behavior. And I know that a lot of the coaches that are listening to your podcast also know is that there's also a discovery about, well, here's what I think I need help with. And then I say, well, here's what I think they need help with. And then we've got to spend some time merging that, so that we really do get to the fundamental issue. And if you don't understand what I see, then we have to work together until you understand that. Because if we're not on the same page, there's no way that you're going to get better. But we are changing behaviors, and you have to do that little by little.
Well, I really think it's interesting. And I really think you're onto something with the business executives and the CEOs and the entrepreneurial coaching. We're doing our big pitches, to major companies, and we have these huge pitch decks. We're doing them all on Zoom now. And sometimes there's 3 or 4 of us on the call, and then 3 or 4 of the client on the call as well. And You can tell you have different personalities, and some people are really into it, and others are just kind of kicking back with their glasses and like they're not even on camera at all. And I just think there's a good opportunity for someone like you to come in and just make it a little smoother for everybody.
What's your biggest challenge? What have you found is your biggest challenge when you're presenting slides over Zoom?
I think that one of the biggest challenges, I think in video calls in general, is just the engagement with the other person. I think when you're in person, you can feel that energy. And sometimes when you're on a call, it's harder to feel it. And you don't really get a feeling as much as if they're interested in what you're saying, or if it's maybe not the right point.
And that's big. That's a big challenge when I work with these sales teams and do the workshops. It's normal. That's what's driven people my way, because they're so used to that feedback and their confidence, and they know that. And if they're not sure, then if you're not sure, what does that do to your insides? It makes you not confident and insecure.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
It's psychology 101. We all get it. We're all the same.
Yep. Well, it's super interesting again. And last question, as you made the transition to an entrepreneur over the last 4 years, how is that going? I mean, how are you feeling on a daily basis? Because I know it's tough.
It's a discussion for everybody, and every entrepreneur gets it. I've been lucky enough to meet people that have done what I've done, and they help me. They remind me that this isn't easy. They remind me, in other words, every challenge that I have as an entrepreneur, whether it's operational or marketing or balancing or discipline of the schedule, if you have a good group of people, they have all been through that and they can help you facilitate it. And sometimes it's just, I remember there was a woman that I went to talk to right when I first started my business, and she's got a very successful marketing company. And I went in there and I sat down, and she said, "So you just went out on your own?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "Have you been wondering what the heck you're doing every day?" And it just broke the ice. And I thought, okay, I'm validated. I get this. And look at her. She's crushing it. She's been doing it for 6 years, and she's younger than I am, and she's fantastic. And so she says things like that, which make me feel validated and laugh. I kind of relax, and then I watch what she's doing. And so those are the things that really help, where you know that you're not alone. You just need to call people when you're feeling a little either disorganized or insecure about it. But what I love about it is that it's my path, and what I can offer is real. And I know insecurity, I know fear, just like you do from being on camera, and all those things that we say to ourselves in our head that are destructive. I've thought them about myself. And so I get it. And anybody can say anything to me about how they're feeling about being on camera or writing a story that feels weak, and I understand it. And so those things aren't new to me. And so I can have some compassion, and then also provide some tips for them to get out of their own way.
Real fast, that it really makes an impact to me, because one of the hardest things for me to come back and to do a little bit of this show is the fear of what everybody thinks all the time.
Normal.
And it can really cripple you. And then when you realize nobody cares, and to just get out there and do it. And in the end, I think most of the time that's how you're going to end up winning.
Right. In that people are always, it's that whole adage, people aren't thinking about you as much as you think they are.
Right.
And if you stay focused and realize that you've got a passion to share, that also helps. But the other interesting thing, Bob, about being an entrepreneur is that it's nice that I can handle this. And there is a thought about ageism in corporate America that makes me a little uncomfortable as well. And I started thinking about that when I got out of sports for the first time. I thought, I don't know. They're not nice to women aging in sports. They're just not. And I know as time goes by, progress happens. And there's so many phenomenal, strong women in sports media right now. It's amazing to watch. But when I was in it, it wasn't like that. And so there's a destiny thing that I love about the fact that I get to create my own path here. And if I was in corporate America, there's a fear that maybe I couldn't, and that I would have somebody else telling me when my time was done. And I don't love that. I don't love
No, I don't love that either. Now you're designing your future,
mm-hmm.
which is fantastic.
Right. So that's kind of where we are. I'm grateful. It's been 4 years. Grateful. I'm sure you understand that. You work hard and you surround yourself with the right people and just practice gratefulness every day.
Every day. Well, thank you so much for being here today. Really appreciate it. How can people reach you?
Anyway, I'm on LinkedIn is my favorite way to reach me on social media. LinkedIn every day. I love LinkedIn. I think it's so professional and clean and interesting. Katy at katytemplecoaching.com is my email, and it's Katy with a Y, Temple like the university. And then my cell, which is on my website, Katy Temple Media Coaching, and all that contact information is in LinkedIn and on my website. So I'm pretty accessible and out there.
Katy, congratulations on the business, and really appreciate it. And I look forward to talking to you again soon. This has been great.
Yeah, let's talk offline, Bob. Let's do some collaboration.
For sure. For sure. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.